academics, they are not listening. They listen with a certain mindset. And the mindset is they know the answers. They know they're right. They are the experts. They've studied history. And I'm going to listen to you just so I can tell you why you're wrong and why it's nonsense. Okay? On. All right? So this is the important thing here. And that's the problem you get. So what's happened here? They've turned up in Athens. And unfortunately for them, it looks nothing like the Athens they were expecting, okay? It's, for one, it's full of Islamic towers. They call it Frankish here, Ottoman tower. And you can still see on these photographs, these very early photographs in the 1860s, you can still see the towers that they haven't yet destroyed. And it gets worse, okay? Because it's the advent of photography. Now, there's a name I want to dig out from here. Because obviously this has been going on for longer than that. So you think the idea of it was probably invented around about the 16th to 18th centuries in Florence. There's a person here called Gregorovius. F. Gregorovius. He's one of the earliest historians who visited Athens. And he wrote this. And when did he write this? Goodness, I think it's medieval times he wrote this. Anyway, in what concerns the actual city of Athens, its fate in this epoch, i.e. the Middle Ages, is covered by such impenetrable darkness that it even led to the nascence of the birth of the horrendous opinion, which does sound rather plausible, namely, that the city of Athens had grown over with trees and weeds between the 6th and 10th century, and ended up burnt to the ground by the barbarians. There is some firm evidence of the existence of Athens in the darkest era, but hardly anything can serve as more surprising proof of the city's complete disappearance from the historical horizon than the very fact that one has to prove, this is in italics, prove the actual existence of what used to be one of the greatest cities in a country that is historical for the most part. This is supposed to be one of the greatest cities in histories, and this backs up the whole idea of classical Greece. They get there, there's nothing there. Like, where is it? They can't find anything. So you go back, they can't find the great temple of Zeus, they can't find anything, all right? So more from Gregorovius. From the 7th century and on, Greece becomes so unimportant for history that at the names of the Italian towns are mentioned a lot more often by the Byzantine names than those of Corinth, Thebes, Sparta or Athens. None of it gets mentioned. All of that notwithstanding, there isn't a single word from any scribe that would mention the city of Athens conquered or destroyed by invaders. And I'm going to interject here now, because the point is this. When we're looking at ancient Athens, it's supposed to remember what we're taught about Athens. It's the origin of the first parliament, democracy, philosophy, the arts, the first plays, writing. All these things came from this amazing, flourishing city, massive naval power, land forces, with great heroes. Where'd it go? Where did it go? What happened to it? How come it became so primitive so quickly? Where happened to the philosophy? What happened to the democracy? What happened to all that kind of stuff? Things like the Lyceum, the most famous library, centre of learning in history. Where's the record of it closing down? Was it burnt down? Was it shut down? Was it vandalised? Was it attacked? There's no record of any of this. It's like it never existed. And that's the point. Did it exist at all? So, I'm going to read a bit more from the book, because they do put this bit very well. I mean, they are big books, and this is 7 volumes. And I'd love to know, if someone get me a copy of volume 7, if you want to give me a surprise early birthday present. It's months away, by the way. It'd be a very early present. It's the one I want. I haven't found 7. Anyway, because I've got PDFs of most of these as well. So thank you to the person who sent me those. Hope we're not breaking any copyright laws, so I do buy the books as well, okay? Because I think these books are great. Right. It is assumed that there is no information whatever about Athens in the period of the 5th to 10th century. It's in Scaligerian history. That's the timelines, the chronology. Gregorovius tells us that the city of Athens became desolate and poor. Its naval supremacy and political life were as lackluster as life in the entire Hellas. Also, the foundation of the glory of the modern medieval town is provided by honey traders and not sages. Synesius doesn't write a single word about the famous monuments of the cities in his letters from Athens. He's been to Athens. None of the statues, he doesn't mention any of them, or the buildings. And it says here, most probably due to the fact that they haven't been, well, I would say yet built. Also, the twilight, this is reading from medieval letters, okay? The twilight that engulfed Athens and Hellas grew ever dimmer. Political life has become non-existent. Trade and industry hardly galvanized any Greek cities at all, except for the spry marketplace of Thessalonica. The famous supposedly ancient, Parthenon amazingly turns out to be a medieval Christian church. Now we're getting to the nuts of it, okay? And historians try to explain this fact in the following way. I've gone through it already. They explain that the church was a copy of the ancient gods, was what they're saying. There's no sign of the ancient gods. It seems to be a medieval tradition. Now, another thing, historians proceed to tell us that oral tradition calls the figure of the Holy Mother Athenia, all right, goddess Athena, Athens, name of the city. This name later began to use for referring to the Panagia, Atheniatusia, which is the big statue of the warrior, with the warrior Athena. Now, apart from finding that the ancient Athena was associated with the Christian Holy Mother of God, we find out that the ancient Parthenon was built in the Middle Ages as a Christian temple dedicated to the Christian Virgin Mary. Virgin Mary equals Athena. As we are now beginning to understand, Athena was just another name given to Virgin Mary. The classical ancient figure of Athena Parthenos, or the Athena of Parthenon, can be seen in figure 7.33. Okay, so what I'm doing is go through some more of the pictures. I can't read the whole book out, obviously. I picked out a few bits, but I'll give the overall story. Have we got any physical evidence to back this up? All right. So you can see there's a tower. This is considered, even though it's possibly a Frankish tower, it could be quite old, or Ottoman, so it's at least a few hundred years old. It's not in keeping with this dream they had of what Athens should look like. The ancient lines, the beautiful way everything was just coordinated and fitted together. We couldn't have anything more recent to block the view, as it were. And it was interesting. I was someone today was saying about the myth of, I think it's a myth, but definitely the exaggeration of the Roman presence in Britain, whereby any building is considered to be ancient Roman. And this person says, oh no, it's been proven to be Roman. And I go to Chester a lot, and I stand there and I can just imagine the Roman this, the Roman that. And this is the problem. People have got this vision. It's really hard to break out of it. I say it's not a conspiracy. Academics genuinely believe what they're told in school and college. They come out and they feel it's their duty to tell other people. And if someone comes across with an opposing narrative or different information or new information, they react badly and have to defend it. The ball's been rolling for so long, it needs a lot of people to stop it. We're not just people getting rolled along with it aren't going to stop it, all right? Parthenon-shaped temples are seen all over the world. Okay, all right, I'll take your word for that one. Apparently, all the Hellenistic world suffered amnesia. Oh, here we go. After an attack from the Atlanteans, according to Herodotus. Perhaps all the literature was written in the Middle Ages by the Hermetics. Well, I think it was written more recently than that. Probably the 16th, 17th century, most of the history we're following. Okay, now this is the great picture. I've got to get this right now because... Hang on, is this picture or the next one? Yeah, there we are. I'll be zooming in a bit now. So you can see this, the structure. Thank you, Angie, for putting all these together. These are very early photographs, 1860s. Thank goodness they took them. We got so little. Before that, it's just word of mouth, really, isn't it? At least these photographs give us something. So looking at that, they say, well, those pillars there, they look ancient Greek. We'll keep those. The tower, it's got to go. It's clearly a medieval tower. We're going to lose that. Oh, this thing here. Now, this is the smoking gun. All right. Check this out. I love this. Because if you look closely, is there more pictures shown? Oh no, this is the one. The brickwork here, and the brickwork there, and the brickwork here is the same, right? It's the aging and everything is the same. Okay? I hope you can see that clearly. I can't really zoom in. There are better pictures of this. We're trying to find some copyright pictures and find them on the internet. We've scanned some in as well, so I don't know how many Angie did all together. But this wall are the same. The problem is, this building was considered to be medieval or even Ottoman, and so was destroyed. But this style of brickwork also appears here under what's considered to be ancient Greek. So how do you get a medieval or Muslim tower, Ottoman tower, under an ancient Greek monument? It's pretty damning once you see it. And what you have here, this is again going through Elgin's wonderful destructive process. You can see the towers here. Is that the same one? It might even be the same tower actually. And you got these Greek bits. So they get to stay. I think it is the same tower, isn't it? They get to stay after the demolition, but that doesn't. And these piles here, it's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. These are piles of rubble from all the stuff they've blown up. I mean, blown up, dynamited. Not even photographed most of it before it's happened. This is the real scandal of what Elgin did in Athens, not preserving some statues which are probably a couple of 100 years old at most. Nothing to do with ancient Greece. What was a bigger travesty was all the more recent stuff, and all the Ottoman stuff was completely destroyed. This tower is now gone as well. Everything. All that's left is this vision, which is then restored to look like what they think it should have looked like. Okay, so what we got here, 1865, the Acropolis, an Ottoman fortification next to it. Also, the buildings were demolished by the restorers. Okay, there we go. So there was a Frankish tower, or Ottoman, which is actually taller than the Parthenon, which is nowhere near the state it's in now, by the way. A lot of that's been rebuilt. But that had to go, because it didn't fit the narrative, you see. Doesn't fit the narrative, it's got to go. Now this, I should get Angie into this, has become a specialist subject. She got properly into this one. This is an extremely controversial statue. The problem with it is, there's no arms on this one. Alright, how weird is that? Okay, the right arms are removed. Now what it turns out, and I have to say I did a lot of research into this, and I don't know if they're watching tonight, they don't usually watch. My brother-in-law, so it's Angie's sister's husband, he's a history professor from Florence, Firenze. Gosh, almost 2 hours. He's actually, that's what he does, classical stuff, Florence. Florence seems to be where the whole thing was faked from. They faked Rome, they faked the Greek thing, and it's all to do with support of the bankers in their Renaissance times, okay? So, what their argument is, the experts say this is a fairly modern reconstruction, alright? What Fomenko says, this is the original. It is only made whenever, 1600s or 1700s. It's a bit vague, but it isn't 2,000 years old, that's certain. And the hands apparently follow some sort of Christian sign that was used in Renaissance times. So it's not ancient at all. So when they produce what they say is the ancient version of it, all the right hands have been removed. Because the right hands show that this is medieval by the symbol that they're making. So they have to be removed. So this, said to be the reconstruction, is probably the original. Hands all present, doing their whatever they're doing. Reconstruction, hands removed. And this is a huge controversy. Because we're talking 1980. We're not talking hundreds of years ago. Arnie will probably call it ancient history. Right, hang on a second. Right, let's look at a few columns there. No, I'm just reading this, right. I am halfway through reading Arturius Rex. Looking forward to reading the next 2 books I bought from you. Thanks. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Yeah, and thank you for... I should have said all the comments about this. Everyone is loving these King Arthur conspiracy books, so... Brilliant. I mean, just so much positive feedback. That's the symbol of the Trinity. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So... Is that the Trinity? Something like that. I don't know exactly how you do it. Okay, Skirrid has some significance. Yes, Skirrid definitely has some significance. So this is all part of this, and here we go again. Oh, here we go. This is the, I need a hand, this is a few weeks ago, she did tell me all this. The hands have been re-sculpted now and they've been changed, look. Isn't it terrible? Isn't it terrible? See the 4 fingers in a row here, look? And then, they're not in a row, they're doing this. Which is some ancient symbol. And this hand is suddenly doing a really weird kind of contorted position. So there's something very strange going on, even now, alright? And this is supposed to be Renaissance, not ancient anyway. So it's all bonkers, isn't it? Oh, sorry, that was my previous thing. Right, I'm going to say some more about this. So I'm going to give you a flavour of some of the pictures. It's 10 to 10. Oh my goodness. We covered a lot tonight. Right, what's a couple of other things I want to mention? Just 1 second. Oh yeah, another thing they talk about, just to throw this in, is that there's a medieval Trojan War, which is very interesting. I'm not sure this fits in, but I'll just mention it as we're on the subject. A place the nobility of Romania made frequent pilgrimage to. Right, one day, this is supposed to be 16th to 18th century. 18th, only a few hundred years ago. Helen, the wife of the Duke of Athens, went there guarded by 100 knights. Paris, the son of the Trojan king, noted her, killed all the knights in 100, and abducted the beautiful duchess. Thus medieval chronographers have been of a significantly different opinion on what concerned ancient events in their chronology than Scaliger and his adherents, and that really does throw the cat amongst the pigeons, but I'm not sure about that isolated. That's something by Raymond Montana. Okay, one other thing. Now, I just want to say one thing about the buildings, right, just before we finish. A quote from the book now, because we're reading from, I think it must be the same person, Ramon Montana. Right, the condition of the Frankish states in the early 15th century Greece can be described as favourable in general. One shouldn't imagine this epoch as a period of constant wars and military campaigns. Peace reigned for most of the time and trade flourished. The Latins must have felt safe in Greece. A splendid knightly life evolved, which can be proved by the existence of a parliament in May 1305 in Corinth, on the isthmus where in ancient times the games of Poseidon took place in the holy pine grove. The knights now engaged in jousts, dedicating their deeds of bravery to beautiful women. The glamorous festivities lasted for 20 days. So, moving on, it's significant that the Frankish barons, this is the weird bit, adorned their constructions with Greek inscriptions. Some of them may have been declared extremely old nowadays. Scaliger point out the numerous parallels between the ancient and the medieval events in Greece. So I want to. There's one other thing I really wanted to cover. After the fall of Constantine, this is the problem, of course, because this became an Ottoman city anyway. This complicates things. But the big point I want to make, and I want to really, really nail this home when we get onto the Roman history, because it's the same model. So what we also find out that right, hang on a second. I'm just going to read one more passage, okay? We're also told the total absence. Who wrote this? I need to give a source. This is Gregorovius again, medieval times. We are told that the total absence of foreign chroniclers in Athens and Hellas in general is most woeful indeed, since the Byzantine chronographers didn't consider the Hellenic history worthy of attention. The Hellenists were the only ones that their descendants could turn to for this kind of information. It's not even on the map, literally not even on the map. People are not even talking about Athens. It's like it doesn't exist. Medieval, even early Renaissance times. We also find out that the genesis of ancient Greek history can be traced to Florence of the alleged 14th century. The Strozzi and the Medici, we keep seeing these names, don't we? The Strozzi and the Medici have been Phil Hellenes. They've invested their funds into Greek literary studies. Cosimo conceived of the plan to revive the Academy of Plato in Arno. So the head of this undertaking was called Pleton, Pleton, who was probably who the ancient Plato has been invented from his name. In both name and occupation, it is assumed that the propagation of the ancient Greek literature across Europe started in Florence. So as I've got a brother-in-law who's a historian in Florence, and that's where he studies classics and all that kind of stuff, it'd be very nice to have a proper chat with him about all this. So the ruins that they discovered, one last thing, I almost missed this. So Byzantium fell in 1453. The last of the Franks defended the Acropolis for some time. However, the Ottoman overlord Omar, infuriated by the resistance of this stronghold, ordered the Acropolis and its environs to be shelled, which resulted in the demolition of the Acropolis and its temples. This great destruction, which claimed many beautiful monuments of the 13th and 15th century, not 2,000 years ago, created many ruins in the territory of Athens that they subsequently declared ancient. So the medieval buildings, they got blown up in a war, and then they got declared ancient when the archaeologists go there. You can't date stones, you see. You can't date stones. Whatever you try. So, however, nowadays, no one in either Greece or any other barbaric country studies or even understands Bell's letters and science. It is impossible to find a town that would have an academy. The people of Greece remember nothing of their history nowadays. So why do the people of Athens not know anything about their own history either? So you can see the pictures there, the Parthenon, all that kind of stuff, and the stairs. And it's there's more and more I could go on and on about that. It's well worth. It makes you think. So I wanted to do a nice juxtaposition of those two there. I hope you enjoyed that, where you can see that on the one hand you got copious amounts of written evidence to support the Welsh and British accounts. You can visit the sites. You can see the ancient stones. You can see the place names on the ground. Any evidence you could think of. They've even found skeletons where they're supposed to be. We haven't got all the archaeology because you just cannot get archaeologists to dig in Wales. But hardly any digs ever take place, and they're very specifically looking for something Roman if they can. Check out the Caer Mead video if you haven't seen it already. Caer Mead, Mead. Just type in Caer Mead in the search, and you can see an ancient British villa that was excavated. Hoping it was Roman, wasn't Roman, filled it back in again. This goes on all the time. All right, so on the one hand, you've got almost impossible to get anything taken seriously. On the other hand, you've got ancient Greece, which is considered to be the pinnacle of civilization, the flourishing of ancient everything. Like they invented writing in 1250, but didn't write anything for 600 years. All this nonsense doesn't matter. It's all fine because it's classics. And posh people learn classics. And if you can speak Greek and you can speak Latin, everyone thinks you're really clever and you know what you're talking about. And even if it's complete nonsense. And if you come up like that, talk like this, you the Welsh accent, like you come from Rhondda or something, don't matter what you say, but no one's going to believe a bloody word of it, so you think you sound stupid. And that's the way it goes. Brilliant. Anyway, well, thanks to see, wow, so many viewers on at the same time. That's fantastic. Thomas Ramirez, my mind just exploded. I've read the Greeks all my life and never questioned what happened to them after the Neoplatonists. Yeah, where did they all go? Where did it all go? Where did the learning go? Where did everything go? All right, okay. There's loads of good comments tonight. We were told in history lessons in school it was only the main Parthenon in Athens. Yeah, I don't know about others being around the place. I mean, I've only really looked at picking the holes in the Greek one. Because what I should add as well here, which I really want to ram home with the Roman thing, is, and this is why it applies to Britain, by the way, it's Britain's hidden history. I know we're talking about Greece and it seems nothing to do with it. It all ties in. And the Roman one, which I really want to go into, and it does depart slightly from Wilson and Blackett, although where I feel we're in a unique situation is this flamenco stuff is brilliant at pulling apart the mainstream and giving loads of references and photographs, and there's more things I could have added about this. And they've got a perspective and explain what was going on. Wilson and Blackett come from the other way. There's hardly anybody reads these two. Flamenco is incredibly controversial and shunned in the West, and Wilson and Blackett, well, can't even get read in Wales, definitely not read in Russia, so we've got an advantage, all right? So let's see what we can do with that advantage. And I go into more detail with the Romans, because that because obviously the Greeks aren't claimed to have invaded Britain, whereas the Romans are. So the situation you have, and it's the same in Greece, if you need to, it's slightly, in Greece I don't think they're actually deleting anything. I think there's just nothing there. In Rome, what seems to have happened, you did not have an ancient Roman empire. Rome was supposed to be a fishing village in medieval times. What you did have was when you get to the 4th century, and this is where some of the Wilson Blackett new notes sent off, boom, light bulbs. The 4th century, when they're trying to mould this version of Christianity, a new version, the Roman version, not the original Essene-based, Druidic, Gnostic kind of, personal relationship with God, all that kind of stuff, but the hierarchical church that we're more familiar with today, with the miracles and all these things, was they needed to give it antiquity. It needed to have great history to be credible. It's like Scientology or something. If you just invent it and say it's from now, you need an ancient source. It's Scientology, a strange example because it's from aliens or something. But you need to make it ancient. So you need to backfill a story to make ancient Rome, and he made it the grandest city on earth. But that's got to come from somewhere. So what's happened seems to have happened in Greece. It's not the case that nothing happened in medieval times in Greece, or Renaissance times, that nothing happened. Plenty probably happened. And the point they make out, the Flamenco says as well, the same with Rome. Plenty of stuff happened in Rome in Renaissance times. That's when all the wars are really going on between the Roman city-states. They're all fighting each other, Romans and Neapolitans and Florentines. That's when the fighting was taking place. But they've taken that history and they've moved it 1,000 years back. So now you're left with this void where there is no Greek history for, well, as I showed earlier, hardly anything over 1,200 years. There's also, what happened to Rome? There's no real Roman medieval history or anything. It's just hardly anything at all. So you had to move, because what's happened is the history happened much later as we move back. And what we're going to show in another video, or another Sunday evening, is you've got too many gaps. You've got to take your history from somewhere. And this is where Flamenco and Wilson and Blackett diverge. Because they've got the Tartarian thing, the Russian Empire and all that kind of stuff, which I'm not an expert on, and I'm sure to explain some of it. But what we show from Wilson and Blackett's work is one of these holes they had to fill, one of these gaps, was they took British history and stole that to create a Roman dynasty, which was the British kings being Latinized to become Roman emperors, as you can see in Arturius Rex, who's ever reading that. You've seen it already, the parallel kings bit. All right, okay, so there we go. Wow, that just flew by. I don't know about you, that was 2 hours. I just flew by tonight. I had so much jammed in, and I'm going to try harder on Sunday evenings from now on to stick to the main subjects, and I'll do the little bits and pieces things in separate videos during the week. And there's loads more books, loads more stuff, and tell you what, if there's one thing we're not short on this channel, it's content. There is tons and tons and tons. We're drowning, aren't we, under books and folders here, aren't we? It's burying. So there we go. All right, are you going to play us out?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay, he says, yeah. You can see he's wet here. It's Hardy. He's had a long weekend. He used to be in bed, gone 10 o'clock, look, on a Sunday. He's had a hard weekend as well. What have you done this weekend?
Pardon?
What have you done this weekend? Not a lot. Okay. No, it's Muse had a hard weekend, isn't it? I'm not sure about this playing cricket. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, so while I was getting his stuff together, watch, don't pull your head out on. You got the headphones on. Well, I would say for everybody. The reason I've done this, right, I'm trying to play a bit of cricket and stuff like that. I've been living this project now for 2-3 years. I always do things with the family and everything, but it's pretty much every waking hour. And you might have noticed the last couple of weeks, a couple of people asked, they're like a bit jaded and wandering off subjects and not finishing things and not really concentrating, it seems. And I think it's just you can overdo it a bit sometimes. I think that's what I was doing. So, and I'm not very good at doing nothing. I find relaxing, just doing nothing, very difficult. The game of cricket, as long as the ball isn't coming at you at the time, and you do have to concentrate. And I used to be very good at cricket. I'm not very good now. But you're there, you're stuck on it. You're stuck for like, how long's the game of cricket? We started 12:30 yesterday. It finished about 7, I think. So 6.5 hours, and you're chatting to people who just not interested in this at all. They might be, I don't know, we just not what you talk about in a cricket field.